We're going. It's good.
Oh, I was waiting for you.
We're on.
We start talking.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, guys. C. Ray Johnson here, talking to you again about traumatic brain injury, TBI, Post-Concussion syndrome, PCS, awareness, and dealing with headaches and depression that can be a big part of it. The headaches that can come with the traumatic brain injury are not your normal run-of-the-mill headaches. They can just vary, and you can have numerous different ones at once. Of course, they could be pounding or piercing, but they can be more severe, almost like bone crushing. You can feel an openness in your head. I know when I had mine, I would deal with various ones, just a lot of pressure. I felt like crushing from the top down, just like a heavy brick pushing down. It would give me bone pain within my jaw. I would feel like a big rod was going through my head, and I felt like my left side of my head was just opening, and I even had like a wetness sensation. It felt like my head was dripping, and I would ask him, are you sure? Because I would feel it. It's just all the nerves that were affected by this. So they can range a great deal, and you can also experience an onset of migraine headaches as well. So I'm just going to discuss briefly a couple things that you could do to help alleviate that. One of the things that can help migraines is if you look on the lines as far as nutrition, because what you take into your body really does come into play with helping your body do its job to heal yourself. To do its work. And a lot of times there's things in nature that will help. And there's a natural remedy called moringa, and that helps me with migraine headaches. That's something that you could think about asking your doctor or a naturopath to see if you wanted to add in to your diet to help not only with a wide range of nutrition overall, but to help deal with migraine headaches. And also, it's really a good thing to think about chiropractic care, even if you've never been, after a brain injury, because they deal with along the whole lines of the spinal column and the central nervous system. And a lot of times there's nerves that are pinched that can cause numbness, but they can also cause headaches. And just going to a chiropractor, for me, that really helped alleviate a lot of problematic headaches that I was experiencing, because they realign your body, and your body is better apt to flow and release that pressure from nerves that can be pinched. And a lot of times they can see damage done along with your C-spine as well. For me, I had whiplash from my traumatic brain injury. Everything was just twisted, so I have a problem in my C-spine, in the cervical column, with the C3, 4, and 5. My discs, they're out, and I've also had MRIs to back that up. And that's also something you might want to think about asking your doctor about too, to have an MRI. And if you could do an upright MRI where you're actually standing, so you're not laying down and everything is compressed. You're standing how you normally would be, moving around with your normal activities of daily living, and you experience the pain. So it would better tell the doctor where your discs might be out of alignment and what nerves can be pinched. But seeing a chiropractor can help alleviate that. And also, I wanted to touch on depression. A lot of times, because it's a hidden injury, it's lonely. People don't understand, because it's going on, you feel it, but they see you look fine, and they, it can become frustrated on both ends, because you don't understand why they don't understand, and they don't understand why you're behaving oddly to them. Like if you're experiencing overwhelming stimuli and it sets you off, and it can affect your emotions, and crying, angry outbursts, whatever. It depends on what lobe you were hit, the severity of the impact, and so on. But it can put you into isolation, because you need to get away from all the stimuli, right? You need to get away from the noise and find that darkened room, just quiet, no sound, because when you take into consideration noise from a TV or radio or talking or outside, the dogs, the phone, whatever, it just compounds, and you need that time to just rest, that quiet time. So having that time alone all the time does isolate you. You find that you can't do what you used to enjoy. You can't go to functions. It's very difficult to walk into a school setting if you have children and you're recovering from a brain injury or a post-concussion syndrome, because just the movements of everybody, you know, moving quickly, all the little kids running around, and the higher pitched sounds and the noises and the busy floors is overwhelming. And it could just, you can go from, you know, almost, you know, like a low number of symptoms, you know, 1 or 2, or even feeling really well, thinking you're on the road to recovery, and you walk into a setting like that and bam, it just knocks you flat. And you're just completely overwhelmed. So you don't get to enjoy things like you used to. You know, going into a restaurant might be too difficult. Family get-togethers, that kind of thing. And if you go into a restaurant, from what I've learned, it's easier to have if you could get a table with your back against the wall, so you don't have that sound coming from behind you. And if you're hypervigilant, you're always on alert, and any sound coming from behind, you're very jumpy. And that worked well with me through my hypervigilance, to sit against a wall, or if you have a tall booth, some restaurants will allow you to have that. Once you are on the road to recovery, you can handle even getting into a situation like that. But I would also recommend those high fidelity earplugs that I suggested before. They dampen the irritating sounds, high pitches, the clanging, any little thing that you normally would take for granted. Being out in a setting, people eating, and just their utensils clanging against the plates or the glasses, your brain picks up each one, every person, and it just compounds. And then you have who you're with talking to you, and music playing, and so it's very, very rough. And it took me years to be able to go into a restaurant setting, but I still would wear those high fidelity earplugs to block it out. I would still be able to focus on him and hear him, and drown out all the nuisance noises.
It takes a lot of, you know, some pre-planning before you do things. Whereas before you could just drop in and go and do whatever, you know, stop at a restaurant. Now we either call ahead and plan, if we know the restaurant where we're going to sit, or we go when we know it's not going to be busy.
Which isn't that often, but
right.
Like, you know, say our anniversary, we would go at an off time, be one of the first ones there. You know, you just have to think outside the box a little bit. Even just get a takeout, go sit somewhere quiet at the park.
Yep.
You know, and that's, you know, that's great, you know. Yeah, so little things like that.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's easy for, you know, depression to set in because it becomes lonely. You know, you're by yourself. You need to be by yourself a lot to just recoup and get through the day. And you know, you can't, don't let it affect you where you don't beat yourself up if you can't do what you did before, the day before even, or if you did too much the day before and that kind of compounds and gets into the next day. Then you just, you know, listen to your body to take the cues and take that added rest. You know, and do things that are positive. Try keeping a journal, writing down things every day, something you are thankful for. So when you have those moments of downtime, you grab that notebook and you go through and you see, oh, I am thankful for that. It's little reminders for you in a world that's becoming very negative, and it's easy to get negative yourself if you start to sink into a depression. And with that, you know, be honest with your doctors. Tell them how you're feeling. You don't necessarily have to go on an antidepressant. And with that, I want to make a note. If you are already on antidepressants, don't take anything over the counter with 5-HTP in it, because that will, they can synergistically boost your serotonin levels in the brain, you know, between the medication and between that, and it'll be too much for your body. So be honest with your doctor if you are taking something over the counter, if they decide to put you on something. If they do, research it, you know, look at the side effects, because there's a lot of interactions, you know, with medications, and a lot of times it's something, it might be minor, you won't even have to go on that. You could talk to them about maybe St. John's wort. That's a mild, natural, uplifting mood enhancing, yeah, and it also helps with fibromyalgia pain, actually, and helps your joints, as does SAMe. And you need the SAMe, you need that to help get the serotonin around in your body, and between there's a connection. I'll just discuss briefly with the brain gut, you know, you are what you eat, the brain gut axis connection. So but with that being said, again, if you're on any antidepressants, or if you're bipolar, say, don't take SAMe. And to note about the St. John's wort, will make you photosensitive. So if you're out in the sun, you'll have to be cautious and take precautions with that if you choose to use a sunscreen, or wear protective sunglasses and hats, to kind of block out. But just to not give up hope. Have a support line. Family, friends, pay attention to your loved one that has gone through this injury and they seem to get better, and you think they're okay. Be that uplifting person for them, encourage them, give them hope. They might be down because they're stuck in the house all the time. They can't drive, they can't do this, they can't do that, they can't work. Come up with something together that they might enjoy and do it together. Something low key that isn't going to affect them too much. To stimulate.
That's where patience and understanding, being empathetic, understanding your partner, being willing to talk to them, and find what's going on. Because it's easiest, to fall into the rut or the feeling of, well, she can't do what she used to do, or he can't do what he used to do. And
a lot of people want to give up because they feel like, oh, I don't want that anymore. I want to keep going. But you have to, it's a learning curve for everybody, learning patience, because this can happen to anybody at any time. You can prevent, you could try to prevent so much, but you just can't stop life. Life happens, and all of a sudden you could be in a situation and you may develop a brain injury. So you have to,
just remember that the person that you fell in love with, that you're there to support before the head injury, that person's still there. It's also a golden opportunity to step back and relearn or to learn the new part you have, because there are changes.
It's still you may be just a little different. You're having a rewiring of your brain. So in effect, you can use that time to rewire your life in a positive way. Really try to stay positive, even when you start to feel down, and you could even little treats for yourself. Even if you think of everybody runs for chocolate, right, for the dopamine, but they actually did a study. You could just think of chocolate and your brain will start manufacturing serotonin in the brain to help uplift your mood, just thinking about it. So that right there, I mean,
kind of like when I salivate when I think of hot peppers. But yeah, it's there's those little things, and it's like I said, it's easy to as a loved one, a caregiver, a spouse, to be selfish and look at what you've lost. But then you just step back, and this is something I had to learn myself. Step back and look at the person that you're living with, that's dealing with all these other things. And it's an opportunity to express those wedding vows that you made, for better or for worse, through sickness and health, and to be selfless and understand what your partner's going through and learn to love them where they're at. And in doing that, you're going to grow as a person and learn an awful lot more about yourself and where your shortcomings are, your level of patience, your level of understanding, your ability to love. And not the butterfly, wispy feelings that everybody talks about. Love, real love, action. Love is a verb, right? It's an action word. It's doing. It's not feeling the butterflies. It's actually taking self-sacrifice and putting yourself in that person's shoes, and then being willing to go out and do whatever you need to do to help make them comfortable, or to feel loved still. So
yeah, it's a big learning curve for everybody. And even when I discussed last time about kids too, a lot of times, just from playing, running in the gym, banging heads, falling off their bike, sports, if your child has a brain injury, talk with their teachers. And if you are a teacher, pay attention to the kids. If they seem a little off, staring off, they can't concentrate. It's not just that they don't want to do it. It might be too much stimuli for them. They might need that quiet time, more of that one-on-one. They might need to be able to do some more work at home. Come up with a plan. Don't let the kids fall behind just because of a hidden injury. You can, even if you're unsure, ask the parents. This is awareness. It wasn't just the month of March. It's everyday awareness, because it's just so wide, spread. You could have a brain injury, any numerous ways, like we talked about the last time. And then just one other thing I wanted to mention briefly, as far as headaches and pain, and taking natural anti-inflammatories such as turmeric and so forth. Talk with your doctor and your naturopath is always the best way to go. Moringa. that type of thing. Get your omegas in, antioxidants and all that. And a lot of times right now, especially if it's ongoing and you deal with other things such as fibromyalgia or even autoimmune diseases, a lot of doctors, because of the opioid epidemic, like to give out gabapentin, but really, really research it. Think about it before you take it. And if you do decide to take it, be honest with your doctor if you've been taking any street drugs. I mean, it really, really is important. It's all because of the opioid epidemic. They don't want to give out, the oxycodones and all that. But if you're already taking that or have it in your system, even within 120 days, it can affect, because they both suppress the respiratory system. And that can have a negative effect on your life. It's life-threatening at that point. So just be open and honest, really research. You might decide to just take an occasional ibuprofen if you needed something extra, or even CBD oils, because they're great. You can have them in capsule forms, and they're natural, and you can go to certain health food stores in your area and research the company, where they're how they're processed, and do your research. And don't just jump into any drug handed to you and think the doctor's going to catch something that might interact with something else, or the pharmacist. You are your own health advocate. It's you putting it into your mouth, or your loved one. So really research everything, and just don't give up. This is think of it as a life experience, and what you can do from here on out at this point. It might change things up for you, your career, your family, and what you used to do, but then you might find that you're able to do things you've always wanted to do, because now you have the time, where before you were just too busy. You might be able to take up that serene hobby of, I'm just throwing a couple things out there, like painting or drawing or writing or sculpture, just something relaxing. That type of thing. So don't get too down on yourself or depressed. And there's all kinds of support groups. I have one online, traumatic brain injury, TBI, Post-Concussion Syndrome, PCS, Facebook support group. You can ask to join that, and that is a great way when you're down, just to get on and you need to talk to somebody, even if you need to vent your frustration or you need to look for advice. There's physicians on there, there's chiropractors on there. They will share tidbits of information, encouraging words, what helps, what's out there, therapies, and all that. So, join in. And if you like any more information on the other books I've written on, go to crayjohnsonauthor.com. And the latest one is Autoimmune Disease and Fibromyalgia, the Traumatic Brain Injury Connection. And there is such a connection in your body between your brain, your gut, and what happens and what you take in, whether throughout your environment or the food, or even the medication that you ingest. Yep. So,
and remember, the grass is always greener where you water it. So pour into your loved ones and watch it grow and flourish.
It's for the cats. Some natural.
So beautiful.
Yeah, natural cackers. They have to be natural too. All right, thank you so much for your time. And God bless.
God
Don't
bless.
give up.
I hope this helps someone out there. God bless you.